Blair Witch.
I'm so scared right now.
No, the game! The game developed by Bloober Team and published by Lionsgate Games for PS4, Windows and Xbox One. Set in 1996, a time where games were so lovably simple and weren't reviewed by thousands of complete morons like myself. Accompanied by his adorable and customisable German Shepherd Bullet, Ellis Lynch, a former soldier, copper and all-round good-hearted American, has decided out of the kindness of his heart to join a search team in the Black Hills Forest in an attempt to find missing 9-year-old boy Peter Shannon. The game is a first-person, slow-paced exploration horror game that personally I will never forget. We are eased into an absolutely stunning and lush forest with sun rays bursting through every gap they can find, the birds chirping, your trusty dog walking by your side, you've packed your dog biscuits, your flashlight and off you pop. As Ellis follows the police search party through the woods, you're introduced to the mechanics used to interact with Bullet. Without spoiling too much, how you treat Bullet actually plays a part in how the game pans out, and I thought this was a really interesting slant on having a companion. There's a little bit more interaction than I've typically come across with a canine companion in other games. You're able to treat him with a biscuit, ask him to seek items of importance, fetch other items that are inaccessible to Ellis, pet him, reprimand him, ask him to stay, and walk by your side. But it also acts as half of your weapon when encountering those not so friendly, things. You must pay close attention to Bullet and where he's looking because he can see what you can't. The other half of your weapon is your flashlight, and you point it where Bullet is looking to fend off these haunting beasts that stalk you throughout your ventures. One of my main concerns before playing Blair Witch was having a dog by my side. I was worried that this would be overly comforting and remove certain elements of loneliness and me versus whatever it is that stalks me. I was massively wrong. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this was one of the most terrifying games I have ever played. It totally surprised me. Fear is an interesting emotion and one that can be pretty specific to each individual. For example, Subnautica is a game that some people consider to be a horror game, but I used to love swimming and snorkeling when I was a kid, so the big wide ocean never really triggered me. Stick me in a dark, eerie forest with a flickering flashlight and you've got me close to tears every day of the week. Even with a dog called Bullet, I was only left with little brown bullets in my cacks. The game is heavy on the psychological aspects of horror, and this is made clear when Ellis starts to experience horrifying flashbacks to a war zone that's cleverly integrated into the forest somehow, showcasing a severe case of PTSD. Eventually, Ellis discovers a handheld camera that is used brilliantly and so inventively in multiple ways throughout the game. At first and mostly being used to solve environmental puzzles where replaying tapes that can be found throughout the forest displays a video that was shot in or near to where you found that tape. Certain objects will appear or disappear in the video, and these will also appear or disappear in the real world you're stood in, and I say real lightly. There's plenty of moments where even without your camera the world can play tricks on you. I found this so unsettling, confidently making my way through the woods on a path clear as day, only to find I've looped back on myself and ended up in the same campsite that I started in. The devs have done an incredible job in hiding these loops too, no doors or hidden loading screens. I'm not gonna lie, not got a clue how they did it, other than assuming it's witchcraft, which these guys seem pretty clued up on. Another quick mention for the devs is something I don't think I've seen in a game before, and their stance towards Greenpeace, using Ellis, who would occasionally pick up a random piece of litter that's found around the forest and he would express his disgust. I mean, who the f*** is chilling out and littering in this forest anyway? But either way, a stance from Bloober Team that I totally agree with. Clean up your shit, peeps! Another little quirky feature for those playing on PC and those who own an RGB Corsair keyboard or mouse, Corsair have partnered with Bloober Team and Lionsgate to override your RGB settings when playing the game. Just in case you weren't shitting yourself enough already, the keyboard and mouse starts to freak out too, so that's nice. Back to the game, and another feature I really enjoyed was the scripted and sometimes optional interactions with your phone and walkie-talkie. Early on I unlocked an achievement for continuously ringing a pizza place and getting the owner to go mental at me because I never actually ordered anything. Totally pointless and extremely enjoyable for arseholes like myself.
we have been forced to close our phone order service. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Parts of this feature that weren't pointless and absolutely relevant to supporting the lore and enhancing the atmosphere were quick chats with the sheriff who's leading the search party ahead of you, as well as phone calls to your girlfriend Jess back home. The voice acting throughout was pretty well done, though not amazing. Most disappointing I actually thought was Ellis, but it certainly wasn't bad. Maybe it wasn't so much the quality of the acting, more due to the fact he has a certain arrogance and an attitude of typical gobshite horror movie actor who eventually gets his comeuppance. Or does he?
Get a grip, Ellis. It's just a tree.
The encounters with the things that lurk in the woods are incredible, moments that stuck with me long after I stopped playing. Their speed is frightening enough, but the fact you can barely see them drastically heightened my senses of fear when trying to shine my flashlight on them. Later in the game you encounter a different enemy type that can only be seen through your camera display, and looking directly at them with your light will be the end of you. Similar to Amnesia, where your insanity level increases as you look directly at the enemies. However, this is so much more intense because there's one area where you have to walk right by while staying focused on the floor but still keeping your bearings as you navigate some of the most terrifying corridors I've ever experienced. The story is incredibly immersive and one I really enjoyed. There was a section towards the end where you're introduced to a seemingly human antagonist, and his dialogue and involvement in the story as a whole really threw me right out of the atmosphere and immersion I was experiencing. For me, that's the hardest part of any horror game or film, the explanation of what's going on. It's sometimes made overly clear when really I was terrified not knowing, and now that I know, not so scared. The ending though, Jesus Christ, it's one that'll stick with me, definitely. I mean, I finished the game at 1 AM, so imagine taking your headphones off in a completely silent house and heading upstairs to bed. Then suddenly your 3-year-old son starts chuckling to himself in his sleep. Now come on, don't worry, I did the right thing and I made him sleep in the car. One final point regarding the game's length though, it's a very short game, clocking in at around the 5-hour mark, though it does have multiple endings, 4 in fact, which does add a bit of replay value. It's currently on Xbox Game Pass both on console and on PC. Overall, I maintain this is easily one of the scariest games I've ever played, up there with Outlast for me, so our score for Blair Witch is 8.5. If you've enjoyed this review, then your support by liking and subscribing to the channel would be massively appreciated. Peace out.